everybody, my name is Cody and I'm with the Emerald Coast Science Center, and today I've got a really cool lesson, specifically because I have my two puppies here with me. This is Streak, S-T-R-E-A-K, as like a streak, like a line. This is Stella. These dogs are Lab Catahoula mixes. So a Catahoula is like a Louisiana hunting dog, and then a lot of y'all know a Labrador. They're a mix between those. I'm going to talk a little bit about their breed later on, but what I wanted to talk about, they're pretty tired. I had to tire them out. You can see I'm really sweaty, so you might ask yourself why I'm sweating. It's because I had to wrangle these dogs up in like 80-degree weather, and so it was really tough, but I got them all tired out. But I wanted to talk about wolves and dogs and how we got from wolves to dogs, right? And so a long time ago, before there were any dogs, before we even domesticated dogs, there were wolves, right? And so wolves, they're wild, and they are hunting, right? They're always with a pack. Sometimes they're lone wolves, but they get kicked out of the pack. But dogs like to have companions. They like to have friends. And so a long time ago, when humans were hunting, this is the theory, right? So we can't really prove it because we weren't back in that time. Oh gosh, he's smelling a bone. The coyote skull. Anyway, so a long time ago, before they were domesticated, what happened was the hunters, when we were hunting and gathering, we were hunting for food, and humans are kind of messy, right? And so we'd leave around a bunch of trash and garbage, stuff that wolves would like to eat. And so what eventually happened somewhere in Europe, in between Europe and Asia, is the wolves started to follow the hunters and eating after them. And so eventually what would happen is they stopped being afraid of the wolves, or of the humans, right? The wolves stopped being afraid. And then because the wolves were eating off of the garbage from the humans, off of like the extra food scraps, they started having more babies, and then those baby wolves weren't afraid of the humans at all. It takes about, so whenever baby wolves are born, it takes about 2 weeks for them to start exploring. And in that 2 weeks, when they're exploring and looking around, they can't really see that well. They use their sense of smell and hearing a lot more. But that's like the perfect time to introduce humans to wolves, because if you don't at that certain point in time, then they're all going to be afraid. She's laying down, she's really tired. So in between that really small area of time when they're little tiny puppy wolves, that's when they were introduced to humans, and then eventually they just kept having more offspring, more baby puppy wolves, and then they eventually started to get domesticated dogs. Now these dogs, like the lab, this is Streak right here, the labs didn't really get to start forming until after something called the Victorian Explosion. And so what that was, around this time they started having dogs, but they didn't look like labs. They weren't the breeds we know today, like a Dachshund, the little wiener dog. They didn't have those until just recently, about 150 years ago. And what happened was, hey bud, I see you bud. Hey, so what happened was they started breeding the dogs based off of their behaviors and what they looked like, their size. So like shepherd dogs, like herding dogs, they would breed a lot of herding dogs. So, oh, that boy is a good herding dog. We're gonna breed it with this female herding dog that's really good. And hopefully we can get a baby puppy that would be really good at herding cattle, like cows and stuff, right? But eventually, what happened is during this Victorian explosion in the United Kingdom, they started breeding all these dogs to do different things, for different purposes, for like hunting, for shepherding, for like herding cattle, right? Or for sport, to like go catch like a ball or something. They wanted, or to get like a dog that's really fast, like the greyhounds. They would specifically breed certain parts of the dog to where their offspring would look just like that. So for instance, there is a Louisiana Labrador, and I think that's what these guys are, because these guys are really short for labs. the mom of these dogs, these are brother and sisters, by the way. I didn't mention that. They look a lot different, which is crazy to think about because they have different coats. But their mom was a really, really short Labrador, and then their dad was a really, really tall Catahoula. And the Catahoulas have this nice change of color in their coat. Streak's got it a little bit, but he's just blonde and white, so you can't really see it too well. Right, girl? Yeah. Anyway, so their dogs are really, really short, the Louisiana Labrador, because what they do is they take them on the boats, and if they're really tall, they're going to be falling over because their center of gravity's not too low, right? And then, so if they have really short dogs, their dogs are able to stay on the boat and not fall over. And so that's why they like to breed those Louisiana Labradors really, really short when they go on the boats. So that's what I think these guys are, mixed with some Catahoula. You're shedding a lot, buddy. Yeah, but, so, after that Victorian explosion, we started getting a lot more dogs that look like the dogs we have today. For the Dachshund actually used to be taller. When you see the Dachshund, I'm talking about that little wiener dog, you know, the one that looks like a hot dog. The Dachshund actually used to have taller legs. But what happened during the Victorian explosion is they're like, we want them to look a little bit cuter. So let's give them some short, stumpy legs. And so they started breeding dogs that had short, stumpy legs, and eventually they got to the breed of the Dachshund. So that's selective breeding, that's what that's called. And it's pretty cool how even when you have a dog, you can breed them with other dogs to make them different, and then they can be bred for a purpose. So these guys, they're hunting dogs. They're hunting dogs mixed with a little bit of sport dogs, so they like to smell a lot, they like to be looking around. The difference between puppies, dog puppies, right? Domesticated dog puppies and wolf puppies is for dogs, when they're little tiny puppies, it takes about 90 minutes for them to get acclimated to you. So it takes about 90 minutes for them to be comfortable with you to where they're not afraid. When they're really tiny puppies, when they're growing up, a lot of domesticated dogs are used to people by the time they're older, so they're pretty friendly usually. But with wolves, you have to be with them for 24/7. You have to be with them for a long, long time for them to get acclimated to you. And then if you don't hang out with the little puppies until after 3 weeks, right? So between 2 to 3 weeks is when they're going to be comfortable with you. But if you're not around them then they're going to be afraid of you for a long, long time. And so something I wanted to show you is, so you can see this is a coyote skull. And so with the coyotes are a little bit different. They think, right? We weren't back there at that time, so it's hard to tell. But the theory is that coyotes descended from the North American wolf, and there's about 10% wolf in the DNA of a coyote. So coyotes are a little bit different. They're not dogs because they're still wild, right? They're not domesticated. But something that's similar is you can see of the coyote skull how that tooth kind of comes down over top of that tooth, those incisors, right? And so that's used to cut bones and chew on some tough stuff. Our dogs have it too. So let me go over. Let me grab Street because he's the one that you can see the most out of. Okay, buddy, stay right there. Okay, I'm gonna put you down. Okay, let me see your face. Okay, you see that tooth, how it goes down? What am I doing, Stella? So that tooth goes down over top of that other one, and that's the incisor. That's what's used to dig on the bones, right? And so food is a huge motivator for these guys, right? A lot of times food is how we train them. We'll get little treats. So I got some treats right here. Let's see if they can do some tricks. All right, puppies, come here. Sit. Good boy, Streak. There you go. Oh, I threw it too high. See, Stella has a problem. She doesn't like to listen. She just likes to stare. There you go. Good girl. Y'all can't catch today. They're usually pretty good at catching. All right. Sit, Streak. Shake. No. Shake. Good boy. There you go, girl. There you go, puppies. And so, since food is such a big motivator, we can get them to do tricks by giving them treats, right? So sit, Stella. So Stella doesn't like to listen. She'll sometimes lay all the way down, thinking that that's the best option for her to get treats. Lay down, 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 down. Good girl. There you go. There you go, puppies. Here you go. So food's a big motivator for them. There are stories where I've heard a story where a guy was fishing, and he was fishing some, I'm not sure what kind of fish he was fishing, but he had a bunch of extra right here by his side, and he turned around and he saw a wolf that was staring at him, and he just ignored it. He kept fishing, and every time he turned around, the wolf kept getting closer and closer. And so he just kind of ignored it. He's like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to keep fishing. And eventually he realized that the wolf was hungry, and so he gave the wolf some fish, and then the wolf lived longer, right? And then he went back, but then later on, the wolf came back with his friends. And so the whole pack was there. This is a story that I actually heard on a podcast, but the wolf, all these wolves were just standing by this dude that fishes and gives him fish. And so that's one of the reasons why we think how the wolves kind of interbred into this domesticated dog species is by following the humans and starting to become accustomed to them to where they're not afraid. Right? Right, girl? Yeah. So puppies are good. They are companion animals. They are not solitary. They're always in a pack. Like with wolves. Oh, she's about to break out. Like with wolves, you never see wolves by themselves. They're always in a pack. They hunt together, and they cherish friendship. And so that's a big reason why, see, she's smart. She's about to sneak out. So that's a big reason why the puppies love you so much, right? Because they cherish the friendship. They cherish the food you feed them, because that's a big motivator, right? But yeah. Good puppies, good puppies. Yeah, so it is still a theory because they really don't know. They weren't back there at that time, so it's kind of impossible to be able to tell. Wish we had a time machine so we could see the evolution of the dogs, from wolves to dogs, because it's pretty awesome. And so a lot of times people will study the genes of dogs, because dogs get a lot of the same diseases like we do, like cancer, heart disease, obesity. And so since we're so close to these dogs, it's easy for us to study them, and it'll help us out in the long run too. Yeah. Also, another good thing about dogs is they'll help build your immunity. So like, for instance, when smallpox was around, that virus smallpox, the way they figured out how to get the vaccine is farmers had something similar to smallpox called cowpox. Cowpox is something they got from cows, and they would have little marks like smallpox did, but it was from the cows, and so it was a little bit different. It didn't kill them. And then they took the vaccine from the cowpox, and it allowed them, and so like the farmers would not get sick with smallpox because they already had cowpox. And so they already had built an immunity to the smallpox. So it's cool because if there was like a virus or a disease or something that could transfer over to humans, and if there was a possibility that we had been introduced to it before by these dogs, there's also a possibility that we might have an immunity to it if we've been around dogs a lot, which is awesome. It's cool to think about. It just depends on the situations, right, puppies? So again, this is Stella. Come here, come here. So Stella's right here. She's our girl. They're about 1 year old. They're puppies. And the Streak's right here. But I'm going to go see if I can tire them out some more. We opened June 1st, so it's coming up soon. I'm pretty excited to see everybody again. It's been a long time. We look forward to seeing you, and we hope to see you soon.